working for you. A weekly talk radio program which highlights developments of national interest and the activities of your St. Kitts Nevis government. Join host Lesroy Williams as he presents news, views, reports, and interviews about everything regarding the activities of the Team Unity government and the building of our communities and the development of St. Kitts Nevis. Tune in and call in to interact with your government and share your views regarding the upward forward development of your community and our beautiful Twin Island Federation. Working for you is weekly, every Wednesday live from 1:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. on ZIZ Radio, Win FM, and Sugar City FM with rebroadcast on participating stations. Working for you.
Good afternoon, and I want to welcome you to this special edition of Working for You as part of the second anniversary of the Government of National Unity. The government is celebrating a week of activities to celebrate its accomplishments and so on. And I have with me today some special guests. I have with me the Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable Sean Richards of the People's Action Movement, the Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris of the People's Labour Party, and the Premier of Nevis and Senior Minister, the Honorable Vance Amory of the Concerned Citizens Movement, or CCM. These three leaders came together to lead for the very first time what is historic in St. Kitts and Nevis. Three parties forming the Government of National Unity, or sometimes it is said the Team Unity Administration. I am your host, Lesroy Williams, for this show. As usual, I am no stranger to this show. And so I want to welcome you, the Honorable Prime Minister, the Honorable Deputy Prime Minister, and the Premier of Nevis. Welcome to this show.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, now it is your second anniversary. And you had a first, you had a second, and you celebrate. You have planned a week of activities for this celebration. Now, what I would like you to tell me, Honorable Prime Minister, is what is the reason for celebrating? And how do you feel on this second anniversary?
Thank you very much, Mr. Williams. I think we are celebrating because there are so many good things about which we are proud. And we feel a sense that we have been fulfilling the promises that we have made to the people, and that is worthy of celebration. Ultimately, the electorate of St. Kitts and Nevis will make a judgment call, and they will judge us largely on our performance. And therefore, we are happy that on the occasion of our second anniversary, we have a checklist of things about which the entire national community is proud. I think there is therefore good reasons to celebrate, and the week of activities provides that occasion during which we could highlight some of the successes, some of the accomplishments of the 2-year-old Team Unity administration.
Okay, now Team Unity came together with a particular philosophy, and the name itself, Team Unity, in it is basically the philosophy, that of unity, of unifying the country. Honorable Deputy Prime Minister, could you speak a little bit to the philosophical underpinnings of the Team Unity administration? Because here you have three parties, distinct parties, that for some reason or another, maybe at one point used to be rivals, but yet they were able to come together for the common good. Could you speak a little bit to that?
Thank you, Lesroy, and indeed it is a pleasure to be on this program once more. Let me also take the opportunity to say good afternoon to all of your listeners. Indeed, as you have outlined, Team Unity is the combination of three political parties: the People's Labour Party, the Concerned Citizens Movement, and the People's Action Movement. I should also point out that the Concerned Citizens Movement is a party which traditionally has contested only the seats, the federal seats on the island of Nevis. Now, before we got together as a team, we would have done several different surveys, and coming out of those surveys, it was a calling by the people of St. Kitts and Nevis which said to us that they are interested in a government of national unity. Therefore, a government which is going to unify the nation of St. Kitts and Nevis. The People's Action Movement, which recently celebrated 51 years as a political party, has been in government before. And of course, we have our political philosophy. We have said as a party that we are basically interested in putting people first. That is about the development of all of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Similarly, the Concerned Citizens Movement, a party of some 30 years of existence. As a matter of fact, if I'm correct, they celebrated 30 years just a few weeks ago. And of course, that political party also has its own philosophy in terms of the development of the people of Nevis in particular. The Prime Minister, the leader of the People's Labour Party, he previously would have been a member of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, and of course, coming out of that political party, he would have come to the table with certain principles, philosophies coming out of that political entity. He, however, took a decision that the party had moved away from the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, and as such, we are in need of something different. A political organization, or let me say an entity in government that is going to work on behalf of all of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And I think that basically is what has driven this government, what has driven Team Unity. Yes, three distinct political parties, but three political parties which recognize that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis must be first and foremost in terms of our developmental agenda. And that is what we have sought to do thus far when you look at what we have been able to achieve. Whether it is you want to look at the removal of VAT, whether it is you want to look at the payment to the farmer sugar workers, bringing relief to the students and teachers at Bastia High School, the housing program that we are about to embark upon. But I think one of the key things that we must also be proud and be mindful of is the fact that we have been able to bring the people of St. Kitts and Nevis together. And when I say the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, I want to emphasize that prior to this administration, I don't think the people of Nevis would have seen the kind of benefits, especially under the former administration. Just this week we were able to outline in Nevis a number of benefits which have accrued to the people of Nevis. So more than ever, you have within government a government which is looking after all of the people, regardless of which constituency they are from or regardless of which island they are from. And that is essentially what Team Unity has been able to do for all of the people, not just develop the people, but bring St. Kitts and Nevis together as a federation.
Thank you. Now, as you speak about Team Unity's developmental agenda, you're speaking about, of course, economic development, you're speaking about human development, you're speaking about sustainable development, and you're speaking about it for all of the people. Now, that, of course, would include social, political, and economic inclusion. However, your detractors have accused you of victimization, of nepotism, of only working for some of the people and marginalizing others. Is this founded or unfounded, Premier Amory?
I think, thank you very much for the question, and I think the claim of victimization and nepotism and those negative expressions coming from people whom I shall call people who are disaffected, people who clearly have been beneficiaries of the former regime and who clearly cannot understand how it is possible for three parties to come together, as you said and as been mentioned, of three distinct parties but with a common central thought, and that is to put the people of St. Kitts and Nevis first. And they cannot accept or don't want to openly accept that the team unity government is doing well for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. I think the rancor and the divisiveness which existed is no longer there. The attempts by the opposition and those naysayers to reintroduce things like divisiveness through talk of victimization and nepotism, those things will not hold because they do not exist. The fact that the government changed and that there were people in the previous government who had who I think had sworn to do whatever it took to keep that government in place, and therefore have no interest in getting the agenda of the team unity government to move forward. Those people clearly would be seen as, in my opinion, stumbling blocks. And we cannot expect that a government will proceed and move forward with people who are not going to support the agenda and the program and policies of government. And I think any wise government elected to serve the people and to move things along a different path, to remove divisiveness, to remove the type of support for only party hacks. Those people clearly cannot expect to remain in the employ of government. And I think it is only reasonable for the populace, the people of the country to understand that. And I think that what we've done and the way we have seen the programs evolving, the changes which have been made, the move to remove that and make things easier for people, the move to embrace all and become a government of inclusion cannot sit well with people like those. So they will find these negative things which really are not victimization. It's a matter of making sure that the people's business gets done for the benefit of all the people.
Sure. Now, Prime Minister, you continually sing the praises of the achievements of your 2-year government. You are not new to government. You're an experienced leader in government. And this week, 50 plus achievements of the government will be unveiled in a magazine. What would you say have been your major achievements in government thus far?
I want to thank you for that question. And the achievements are many, and therefore at times difficult to choose a particular one because they have been so far-reaching. Nonetheless, there are some that stand out. And one of it really is the fact that we have governed justly. I want to make that an important achievement of this government, that we had held true to the promise we make that we will not engage in political victimization. We have held true to that, and any other claim to the contrary is fake news. It is an effort at being mischievous, and I challenge them to say, who are those persons who have been victimized? Is it that Delano Bart, who was the ambassador to United Nations, must he continue to serve this government? While he was the ambassador, he came home, was paid hefty sums to pursue actions against the team unity in matters in which we were litigating against the government. And while he was an ambassador, he was benefiting from the provision of legal service to the SIDF. So when we say that all ambassadors should resign and allow the government a free hand, that is not victimization. That is how the system ought to work. And it has worked so everywhere. In Antigua, in Jamaica, elsewhere. Indeed, in Antigua, within the first week of the government, we knew that the Governor General was going. We waited several weeks and months before we as a cabinet took a decision with respect to the last Governor General. When you look at the government as it existed, we endured with a number of the senior officials, in fact many of them are still there, who had been in service to the former administration, given it loyal service, and the only request we made was that they give equally, since they are civil servants, loyal service to the government and the government's agenda. So the permanent secretary, for example, in the Ministry of Education, for a while was the same one that we met there. We have the financial secretary that we inherited from the former regime, and she has been doing her work diligently to the best that we can determine, and she continues to serve in that capacity. We have the chief personnel officer, and if we're talking about victimization, we should go there. The chief personnel officer is the same person that was left by the last regime. It is she who advises the government with regard to personnel matter, and we hope that the same competent advice that she is giving to us, she had given to the administration of the past. So the claim for victimization can't be supported by facts. It is a hollow cry by those who have not yet adjusted to the fact that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis voted for a new order, and the new order does not allow them to continue to parade over the resources of the country, including personal resources, in the manner they did before. I've heard persons say, for example, that the press secretary was victimized. Now in almost every administration, even in the same administration, once the Prime Minister demits or changes, a new press secretary is calling in service to the new person. And there are positions well accepted in the functioning of government that are by their nature political. Whoever carries them, like the ambassadors and so on, know largely that once government changes, there are certain expectations that flow naturally. We heard when President Trump took over, 4,000 plus jobs immediately comes up for new appointment. That is how the system works everywhere. 4,000 jobs. Advisors, functionaries know that they have to submit their resignation to the incoming president because they cannot continue to serve. They did not buy into the policy, the programs of the incoming administration, and many of them are incapable of so pursuing them. How do we expect for all that Erasmus Williams has been, that he could properly be the face of the programs and the communication of a team unity administration? That is why Erasmus himself did not show up to work for weeks. Did not show up to work for weeks because he could not deal with the reality that on the 16th of February, the people in the country had made a change, had decided that they needed a new order. So there is no credible evidence of victimization. This government has a mandate to ensure that its programs and policies are being executed well. And any person that attempts to frustrate the will of the people through the execution or non-execution of the policy programs of the government must be dealt with properly and appropriately. And so that is the matter of victimization. As far as I am concerned, there is no evidence, no credible evidence, and we need to let people know how the system works. It has always worked that way. I was in the Labour administration too, and when we got in, we had to make choices with regard to the continuation of senior civil servants. Some of them were transferred into other departments and other areas. Some were sent on long leave. All these are instruments available to the system, not newly created and invented out of political malice. The system itself provides for these sorts of intervention to ensure that the system can work properly. And every person who makes a cry of victimization also has recourse to the law. In that regard, you must ask yourself, why is it they haven't gone further in relation to the allegations that they are making? Quickly, in terms of the other accomplishments, the reduction or the removal of VAT from food, medicine, and educational supplies comes quickly to mind, because that has impacted all in the society, from the very poor to, of course, the very rich. But in our manner of thinking, we provided the relief from VAT as a way of assisting the vulnerable groups, the poor persons who were burdened, those who could not afford to pay for their prescriptions because of the added burden of 17%. Those were the people we intended to give relief. We understand that when there is a death in the family, and speaking of death, I gather one of our sportsmen has passed, and
he was also a teacher.
Teacher, and I want to extend condolences to him. Equally, one of our servants, public servants, who had worked in the Sugar Workers Program, Sylvester Williams, better known as Seal of Tabernacle, he has passed, and I want to extend condolences to the family. But we recognize that in moments of death, there is much trauma within families, and there is a lot of financial difficulties. We make a determination also to exclude funeral expenses from the burden of VAT. That then brought relief to a wide cross-section of persons. I equally rejoice over our ability to pay the former sugar workers their gratuities. Recall that in 2005-2006, a mere 968 persons were paid gratuities. On the Team Unity, to date, 2,003 former sugar workers have benefited. A significant contrast, 2,003 beneficiaries versus 968. And you do the multiplier impact. These are significant developments that have increased the financial security and improved the financial security of many of our citizens and residents, and I am grateful for that. I want to add one last one, because on Friday at midday we'll be unveiling our 50+ accomplishments. But I want to say that another significant one has been the new era of enhanced relations between the federal entity and the Nevis Island administration. It is no accident that yesterday on the Wind Voices program, the Deputy Premier says that the relationship between St. Kitts and Nevis at the governmental level and the people level, that relationship is at the best it has ever been. That to me was what the dream of unity was about. That we were going to make a legacy of unity that we could champion the cause of the national interest beyond party interests, and therefore in a genuine way live out the motto of country above self, country above party. We said that we could cure that level of vexatious relationship that had hitherto existed between the federal entity. For example, when the Douglas administration, through the members of the board of directors at National Bank, decided that they were going to allow the bouncing of the checks for the Nevis Island administration, we say never again. We say that you couldn't have a situation where the resources of the SIDF, which were the result of our citizenship program, would only be used in furtherance of projects for St. Kitts. I am pleased to say that to date $62 million worth of projects have been approved by the SIDF for the island of Nevis. And we as a government have provided already over $50 million. Contrast $50 million in less than 2 years versus none under the last administration. Contrast 62 million in special project versus a very small number. I think the main project would have been perhaps the cultural center or something like that.
A loan for the country.
And that was a loan. So we have done very well in terms of living up to some of our major promises and commitments to the people. So I feel real satisfied. And all about the country, there's a sense that something good is happening in St. Kitts and Nevis. I was in Nevis last night, and I'll end it at this note, at a celebratory event put on and hosted by the Premier, interacting with the people of Nevis. And they tell me the first time we feel that we are apart. For the first time, we feel we have a Prime Minister. These were the genuine sentiments of people who understand the history of the politics and the political development, who had always yearned to move beyond the pepper in the rice into a higher plane of engagement, because we are their next of kin. We are their brothers and sisters. My father is a Nevisian. My mother is a Kittitian. Which one would I choose? I need both for completeness. And therefore we have been working for that unity, not only across party, but across the two islands making up our federation.